Assalamu alaikum. My name is Avisra Mohsen and I'm from the Department of Chemical Engineering. Today I'll be talking about how marketers play with our minds. I want you to think about the last 10 purchases that you made. Were they physical? Were they online? Did you buy something that you really needed? Or did you just buy a piece of clothes that you liked in a mall? Or you bought something while scrolling through Instagram? Whether you know it or not, every single purchase that you've made in your life is influenced by psychological factors. Today, I'll be talking about 3 psychological tricks marketers use to influence consumer behavior. In my presentation, I'll be talking about the scarcity principle, the endowment effect, and the anchoring bias effect. So, this is a bar graph taken from the article called The Consumer Behavior on Impulsive Buying by Dhananjoy Datta, published in 2017. This bar graph clearly shows that 84% of people made impulse purchasing, 54% were people who spent more than $100 on impulsive buying, and there was also 20% of people who spent at least $1,000 on an impulsive purchase. That's a lot. So, how is impulsive buying related to psychological marketing? Marketing psychology anticipates buyer behavior by understanding our cognitive biases. As consumers, we are irrational. One trick is the illusion of scarcity. One of the most well-known scarcity studies was conducted by Stephen Worchel in 1975. He and his colleagues offered their subjects 2 jars of cookies. One had 10 cookies and the other had 2 cookies, and it was found out that most subjects took cookies from the jar that has less cookies, although the cookies were identical in both the jars. Now, how is this research applied in the marketing? As you can see, this is an advertisement from booking.com which says in red color, as red color is used to attract attention, it says only 4 rooms left on our site. This is creating a sense of urgency. This is in the subconscious mind of the consumer. The consumer would be thinking that if he did not book it right at that moment, he will lose it. Secondly, there is an Instagram advertisement that I came across that said, if you love it, buy it before someone else does. Now, this before someone else does is implying on the fact that the consumer might lose this clothes if they do not book it right away. Again, triggering the impulsive buying. Alright, my second technique that I'll be talking about is endowment effect. Now, what is endowment effect? Endowment effect is when the value of an object increases when it belongs to someone. So after a trial of any product, we are less likely to give it up. It is a cognitive bias that sees that consumers place more weight on things in their possession. Now, this is a study done by Knudsen in 2008, published in his journal called The Endowment Effect. He showed some of the people an option of either buying an object from a company they have already tried or a company that they have not tried, and he saw a high percentage of signal change, which connoted as high preference on objects that the people had already tried to. So this implies on the idea that if people build a sense of attachment with an object, they're less likely to give it up. So how is this applied in marketing? Apple allows his customers in their showrooms to test their phones for as long as they want. People can scroll through the phones, take their pictures, and then they build a sense of attachment and an ownership with the mobile phone, and they're more likely and they're more convinced to buy it once they have tried it. Similarly, IKEA released an IKEA Place app that lets you see how the product fits within your personal space. Thus, the product subconsciously becomes endowed as you perceive it to be yours. Then the third effect is the anchoring bias effect. Now, what is anchoring bias effect? It describes our subconscious tendency to make decisions by relying heavily in a single piece of information. in the back of your mind, you're always comparing the pros and cons of buying an object or not buying an object. You keep on thinking whether I should do it, whether I should buy it, do I really need it or do I not need it? For example, this is an advertisement by Durex that is basically saying, by looking at it, it's a very simple advertisement, but it is saying that, would you rather buy a $3 condom or have a baby for lifetime, which is a financial investment. Now this will make people think in the pros of buying the condom. Secondly is an example of Zoom, their offer of subscription, and it says that monthly they can subscribe to a $14.99 subscription, while annually they can buy a $12.49 subscription. Now just by looking at the advertisement, people are going to be more convinced that they're saving $30 overall and it is more profitable. However, they're not thinking that they're being tied into a long-term commitment and they're technically paying the same amount, and there's no such difference in the amount of paid. Lastly, this is a Starbucks example. In the beginning, Starbucks had a $4 cup offered and a $7 cup offered, and if you're like most people, you're going to be buying $4 cup as that is cheaper. However, then Starbucks introduced a new size of $6.5. Now, if you're like most people, you're going to be thinking that if I'm going to buy a $6.5 medium cup, then I can actually buy a $7 larger cup. So this was the technique used by the marketers to convince you into buying the expensive product. So this is my presentation, and in conclusion, I have described 3 different effects: the scarcity effect, the endowment effect, and the anchoring bias effect that are used to convince you into buying a product. And next time, do think before buying a product. Do you need it? Do you not need it? Are you getting psychologically tricked or not? Thank you. Hope you liked my presentation.